In today's video, the 2027 F1 season is here, and there are some shock driver transfers and some shock developments in R&D. Yes, that's right, we're back with the F1 Manager 2025 DLC Career Mode, and if you're new, if you haven't seen any of the previous episodes, we've been managing Williams here for the last 2 seasons with an all-new 2025 DLC that has given us all the 2025 liveries, etc, etc, and now there is a lot of change coming for this 3rd season, which is why we've got a traditional pre-season episode, because last season we didn't do one because there wasn't really much change. There was, the realism with the DLC edition of a lot of drivers being locked down to these teams with their IRL contracts, and so not a lot changed, whereas we already know much is changing for us and for other teams, as we are changing our lineup with Carlos Sainz having 129 points last season to Alex Albon's 13. There was need for change. Whatever the reasons are, whatever, you can hash it out in the comments of how the last season went down, but I feel we just needed to change something, and it's also, it's an F1 game, it's a manager game, obviously you're going to change things around to keep things fresh. So we have decided to change Alex Albon, and after chasing after the likes of Piastri in the McLaren, because the McLaren was so bad this season at one point. They were like one of the worst teams on the grid. They've caught us up. They actually managed to overtake us in the constructors, but at one point it was pretty big depression for both the McLaren drivers. So I thought at one stage we could maybe lure Piastri away from McLaren, but he wanted far too much money and it would cost so much to break the contract. I went after Bortoleto. Apparently he's going to be swooped up already, so we couldn't go after him. Even thought about maybe George Russell, but it seems like he might be moving away from Mercedes, and the last time we checked it may have been to VCARB of all teams. Very, very strange. So I was left with no other option but to go with a very left field choice, a choice that I'll remind you about later on in the episode, just to keep anyone new to the series on the toes about that one. But this is how the season ended then. Mercedes were the Constructors' champions, but in the Drivers' Championship it was a 6th World Championship for Max Verstappen, 1 point separating him and George Russell. It was an epic season finale episode last time, and one that was epic for us as we got our first win managing Williams, and we got Sainz his 2nd podium and his first ever win for this Williams outfit. It was a fantastic result at Sao Paulo. Now we're ready to end this season 2026 and transition into 2027, which is season 3 of this series. And before we actually go to the end of the season, we've actually got to go through the end of December and complete some last minute research, because this is how well I feel like we managed the research of next year's car. Is we've got research bits finishing like at the end of the month, like 29th and 30th, and I think 31st December we've got research finishing. Hugh Bird, scientist new race engineer from last season, has grown 1, so that's pretty damn great. We've got a message from Mike Crack about congratulating us. You blew us out of the water a little bit this season, can't deny that. I call it a lucky break though. Where are you guys? Oh yeah, that's right, you're all the way down there, many points away from us. I'm not even thinking about you. To be honest, I've been thinking about Audi the entirety of season 2 if you've been watching along, because they did something very special. 8 podiums for Audi in their entry into Formula 1. Obviously were Sauber, now Audi in season 2, and now going to season 3. Hulkenberg and Bortoleto, an insane pairing. Hulkenberg performing very, very well. I mean, he finished 7th place, for goodness sake. Bortoleto also a standout. He's grown to 86 rated. Antonelli came on with a couple of race wins in there, 88 rated. Ollie Behrman had a bit of a tougher time at Haas, but he's still grown quite well to 86. So, some of the newer the newer blood in this grid really coming on strong in season 2, and there's more to come for them, I'm sure, in the next upcoming season. But we're going to finish this research then, front wing, suspension, and I think with that is the last bit of research to do. And we can now go into an end of season sponsor review and board review, of course. So sponsor wise, all good. An extra 3 million just at the end of the season. That's going to be very, very nice for us to spend. I feel like I want to go on a bit of a spending spree to really make as impactful of a winter break as possible. Marketability is going up, so that's good to see. That'll hopefully get us more money in for next season. Overall in the Drivers' Championship then, we know how this went with Albon to Sainz. Obviously, big performance from Carlos Sainz. We came lower than what our board actually wanted, but we did improve our team rating still. From 2.5 star to 3 star. So there were some good things in there, but you can see we've technically failed the performance target, and we're still not quite there on the long-term objective of scoring podiums in 25% of the races. That was a new target set to us after the first season. So I think definitely I'm hoping in this third season, 2027, we will be able to hopefully thoroughly smash this long-term objective and, of course, then get towards where we want to be in the Constructors. My team principal rating has technically gone down, but everything else we've done with the team has gone up. So it's almost like I'm having to take the brunt of, finishing one lower in the Constructors, but it is what it is. The entire rest of the team, though, is going in the right direction. Board confidence is still high, though, so that's all you can ask for, really. So with that, we can go literally into the actual end of the season then, over the winter break. We've got regulation changes for 2027, of course. Annoyingly, the engine limit is going down to 3. That it was already a bit of a struggle town on the engine stuff, so that's going to be one to watch. I may actually change engine supplier for the first time in this series, though. I think I saw a couple of comments also maybe suggesting that as a way to alter, maybe, leap ahead and get some performance in there. But there's a minor technical change, and the cost gap, though, that's to our benefit, is lowering. So it may not be a major technical change into 2027, but there is enough change here with the cost gap, with the engine limit. It's certainly a different landscape of Formula 1, and one that I'm hoping could shake things up even more than it has done with that, very confusing season we had before, where McLaren, the reigning constructors, nosedived. Audi had this meteoric rise. Red Bull with the worst car on paper. Verstappen still able to bag wins, bag podiums, and get a world championship ahead of Mercedes, and somehow Antonelli winning 4 races and wasn't even in the title fight. It was honestly a bit of a madness of a 2026 season when you really deep it, and there's more to come, hopefully. And we enter now the new season of Formula 1, reviewing everything we've got. So despite maybe our own expectations, and technically on paper the expectations of the team, we didn't meet them, the board is still happy with our race performances. That was probably honestly because, yeah, they were pretty happy after Yas Island, delighted after, the way we did around Marina Bay, Sao Paulo, Losail. So that kind of made up for all the disappointments we had in the previous one. You can see that middle part of the season was really quite a struggle town, but we're still good, all satisfied with that, no debt whatsoever. So, like I said, every other indicator was still pretty good, even though it did feel like a difficult season. Balance-wise, we are going to start the season with 11 million, car development costing 14.2. So I think we've done very, very well there. We actually had a decent amount of change left over, which puts us in a good spot for the start of this season to maybe make some HQ facility upgrades off the rip. That could be quite interesting, because of course we did the, we did the suspension and the car park test center. I think we didn't do the factory. I think that might be very tempting for us to do, but we've done as much research as possible. In some ways, this chassis, we've outperformed the technical change there on engine cooling. So for once, our engine cooling might actually be pretty good compared to other teams then, it would seem. Front wing, rear wing, not much change. We've actually outdone it there, so I'm quite happy with that. You know what? At a quick glance of these numbers, I'm pretty happy with what we've done, I think we could actually be in a really good spot. And I know I said that this time last season, but this time I think we put so much more into research that I feel better about it. And I also feel very good about the driver lineup we're about to have in 2027. But this cost gap is also going to be pretty important for us, because we were, I think, still 34 million shy of the cost gap spend. So for a team like us at Williams, clearly we're just not earning as much than other teams, and so for us this is a welcome change, really. Now we get to the power unit suppliers, and I feel like maybe there is time for a change. Having a look at the comparisons on the right hand side from Honda, Ferrari, Renault's just never an option, is it? Ferrari, more, the least durable engine, it would seem, if we compare the two there. Red Bull, well, in some way, yeah, Red Bull's pretty bad as well. Their gearbox is actually shocking when you compare it to Ferrari's. But the fuel efficiency, The fuel efficiency of Ferrari is pretty good, you know. Power's up there as well. The Honda, though, has a maximum power, which has hurt us in the past. I feel it's a toss-up, you know. Ferrari, their best finish last season as engine supplier, third. Red Bull, second. Merc was first, because Mercedes, as a works team, won the Constructors. But I think teams like Audi had a Ferrari engine in the back. I am tempted with a Ferrari, but also Williams Honda, reunition of the Williams Honda relationship could be pretty interesting. I think it has a nice ring to it, and that 100 engine power is pretty tempting, and the fuel efficiency is not too bad. It's certainly better than Mercedes, and we weren't too bad at saving fuel with the Mercedes engine anyway, so that could be a real benefit. I'm gonna go Honda. I think the story of reuniting Williams and Honda is one that'll be really, really interesting. And it's always good to shake things up and give it a try. We've been Mercedes for the last 2 seasons in this career. We go to Honda. It's technically a bit of a, it's a 1 million discount from the Mercedes engine, so we're going to have a starting balance of 12 million. I will take that. That is a decent chunk of change, you know. And we now enter 2027 with our new lineup, as you would have already known if you were following along, and if you're new around here, it may come as a bit of a shock, but this was kind of the last option. We kind of got screwed over by the AI teams being very surprisingly aggressive with their pursuits of drivers we were also trying to maybe go for, a la Piastri. Bortoleto especially was a big loss. I really felt good about signing Bortoleto. I think he would have had a really good rapport with Carlos Sainz, you know, Brazilian alongside a Spanish driver, but instead we've gone and nicked one of the Red Bull Juniors from their program, Arvid Lindblad, alongside Carlos Sainz. He's grown to 81 rating, so I think he's maybe 2 lower than Albon left us at 83, so he's ready for Formula 1. I'm not liking the fact that the mentality is already mostly negative, and the issue is car performance. Let's wait and see. That's not the negative energy that we need. Let's actually ignore that for now. But I'm excited by this, very much so. I'm also excited to see what on earth the grid is shaking up to be like then, with all those musical chairs happening later on in this video. But first of all, let's take you through the calendar, because we've got a bit of a change here. Once again, we've gone for a slimmed down 19 race calendar, but in lieu of the news that the Miami Grand Prix has been renewed till 2041, which is pretty mental, I thought here in the game, let's have a little fun, probably unrealistic story where Miami and America have thrown the big bucks at Formula 1. You know Formula 1 would accept big bucks. They've thrown a lot of money at FOM and Formula 1 to make Miami host the first race of the season. We then fly away down under to the Australian Grand Prix, to China, Suzuka, Bahrain, before starting the quote-unquote European portion of the season that always has Canada in the middle of it. The usual suspects around, although a bit of a change. We're going back to the classic ordering of Spa, then Monza, then you go to Zandvoort, and then go to the last flyaways of Singapore. Now it's Qatar, a run-in of Vegas as the second last race. That's a big old gamble of a second last race, pun intended. And then Sao Paulo, the Brazilian Grand Prix, for the last race of the season, because I think last season at Abu Dhabi, you know, we've had actually 2 very exciting Abu Dhabi finales in the series so far, but equally I felt the racing really wasn't that great around there, and I think we should return to what is, or has definitely always been, a fan favorite as a finale race, but probably very long ways off of happening ever again in real life because of the amount of money that Yasmarina chucks at them in becoming the last race of the season, which is why also I think it's a funny little story to have in the season now, as Miami chucking all the big bucks to become the season opener. That is going to be a very, very odd first race of the season, let me tell you, which is why I think it's going to be fun to switch it up a little bit. We've now got sponsor negotiations to do before we then get into looking at car upgrades, because we've got 63 days till the first race of the season in game. As per usual in pre-season episodes, we're going to basically simulate through all the way till about, you know, 5 days till the Grand Prix begins, and that's when at the very end of the video we'll look at the R&D chart to see where we stack up. So stick around to the end to see where we are in this lineup. I really really hope that this is just a load of baloney in terms of the mentality of the car performance, because otherwise we might be actually in the mud once again. I really hope not, though. But let's see the balance over of these packages. Why do I feel like this funding is a lot less? Oh, no, it's because, oh, yeah, crap. We finished one less in the championship, so we don't actually get as much money. Thank God we got 12 million to start off with, but let's go with 52 then. This is going to be on performance reliance, though, 52 million. Do I go with 45 instead? 7 million less, but it's less reliant on the race day performance. I feel like because we finished 6th, though, the performance on race day, that reliance will be quite low. No? So let's go for that. I reckon actually we could be lowballing them in terms of what we need to get every time. After we've got all these secondary sponsor actually adds money on, so I'm just checking now what gives us the highest amount. More race day targets. Fine, we'll go for it. 87. Oh, okay, I'm not going to go for that other race day target. I'd rather have another up front, to be honest, and then if you had to pick 90... You know what? That's not bad. 94. That's not bad, you know. That's not bad. Give us an energy drink advert cameo. Facility effectiveness goes up. That's not bad. I'll go with that. I'll go with that. So in total, 93 million. So it's still nowhere near the cost cap funding. So you really see how much of a difference lowering the cost cap can make to a team like us, because now that's probably capped out a team like Red Bull, Mercedes, for example. So we'll confirm that 93.4 VIP activity is the preference. Performance reliance is high, but like I said, because we finished lower in the championship last season, maybe we might be able to finesse the game a little bit with quite low targets to keep getting the high earning every single race. And before we do anything on the car, I want to go into facilities. We might need to refurb the wind tunnel, but I think I'm very up for going for the factory upgrade. Let's do it. 11 million off the bat, because that was the one thing we didn't do at the end of last season. We did these two instead. Let's refurb the wind tunnel as well. Anything else need a refurb? Race simulator. Let's go for that. Operation. Okay. Operations there. Weather center. Let's do that. Memorabilia room's really nothing. Tour center, we'll refurb it for the season. The boardroom as well. So decent bit of money spent there, but still got 15 million, 15.8 million in fact. So that's still pretty good. That's still pretty good. It's also not just Arvid Lindblad on this side of the garage for the driver change. Remember, we got in Ben Mitchell. We stole him from Mercedes after Mercedes stole our engineer. But to be fair, he was always probably going to be outgoing with Albon because they had such a good affinity. So we've got low affinity here. It's a little bit tricky, but he's from Mercedes. I trust that he's going to do well. Hugh Bird, you know, he was, I think, at Red Bull originally in the game. He was a free agent after the 25 DLC. And him and Sainz were a great pairing. They did so well. So I have high hopes for Arvid Lindblad to grow into that sort of driver. Our affiliates are still Pietro Fittipaldi, who is apparently so excited to continue his work developing the car. Lou Browning, we're focusing just on him developing himself as a driver. Suggestions I saw in the comments of last episode is just hiring a bunch of drivers on affiliate contracts to help the car. I think I'm up for that after we've sorted out buying some upgrades. I will scout a couple of options though right now. When we look at the in-game car analysis, I don't know where the mentalities come from. Our car is awful. Annoyingly, we've got shocking DRS effectiveness and shocking dirty air tolerance, but we're first in some regards, and this was probably from things like the front wing, rear wing. Obviously, we already had pretty good tire preservation. Engine cooling's gone massively up. We saw that in the email because our engine cooling was like 19th last season. So we actually outperformed the R&D reset. So that actually seems like a pretty good base. It's always a bit confusing to tell. Let's just do a couple of upgrades. I think on rear wing, because I still want to improve the top end speed. Maybe the chassis as well is going to improve that. And then front wing, I think front wing just for the, I don't even know. Yeah, let's just start off with chassis and rear wing. Next ATR's in 66 days. So this will be the last ATR period before we start the season. So I'm going to do 4 upgrades, splitting them over the ATR we've got. Right, 4 design projects put on: chassis, front wing, rear wing, side pods, all will be done around like the end of Jan to the start of Feb. Plenty of time then to get those done, manufactured. And as our refurbishments start to come through, I think on the email, it is time. It is that time to see the official team roster update for this 2027 update in this 25 DLC. That's a mouthful, but it's time for the driver transfers. Are we ready, folks? Because compared to last season where we didn't even bother with a full preseason episode because we knew there weren't going to be many, there could be some we already know maybe some of them if you were watching along in Season 2, and some of them were pretty ridiculous. This is it, folks, and oh, there's one big change off the bat. Unreal stuff from this game. Oh my word, the reigning Constructors Champions, Mercedes, we already knew Russell was actually leaving the team, because when we were pursuing Russell as maybe a potential option for us, we saw that apparently, and we'll confirm that, I guess in a moment, that he was going to VCARB of all places. I couldn't understand why, but clearly it wasn't his decision. Clearly, Mercedes must have thought we need a change here. Which is baffling because Russell was actually the one in the Drivers' Championship fight. Russell finished 1 point below Verstappen, and they've chosen to kick him out of the team, and they believe Antonelli and his former Formula 2 teammate, Ollie Bearman, they're the two that need to be paired together. This is unreal. I know this is a very familiar pairing for those of you who watched my original F1 Manager 24 series, but this is not any of my doing. This is an AI just signing Bearman alongside Antonelli, but it's not for Arrow Archer Racing. They don't exist in this save of ours. It's for Mercedes, the Silver Arrows in 2027. What an exciting and cool, in real life, if this happened in real life, if they became teammates again, the amount of banter that would be coming out in PR stuff. It's already chaos anyway, as they continue to be very good pals on the F1 grid. That's crazy. Red Bull Ford maintain Verstappen and Tsunoda, though. So Verstappen, despite having a pretty, on paper, shocking car and dragging it to a 6th World Championship, he still is just, going to stay loyal to his contract, which goes till 2028, of course, in real life and in the game, clearly. So that's Mercedes and Red Bull, the top two in the constructors. We now move on to Ferrari and Audi Sport. Now, this is going to be quite interesting because I reckon Audi, I think we already know Audi signed a new driver. I remember, and also Bortoleto, we know, was moving away from Audi. Ferrari, I don't know if they're going to change, because in real life, I think they've got their drivers locked in for at least another season. Here in the game, it is going to still be Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, and that's very left field for Audi. They retain Hulkenberg, which is fair, because he came 7th in the Constructors. Very, very solid. They've signed Liam Lawson, which is left field if you look at real life. I guess in the game, though, he's actually higher rated than Nico Hulkenberg. So in the game, it might make a bit more sense here. Hulkenberg did so well as an 82 rated driver. So what could Liam Lawson do in the Audi? A very good Audi, from last season, if they maintain this sort of performance into this one. Leclerc and Hamilton remain at Ferrari, but whether that is successful at all, third time of asking, who knows? They seem to be quick in flashes. Like for 5 races, they'll start winning stuff, and then they'll just peter off again. So it's really just a case of a lack of consistency from the prancing horses that is hurting them in the overall championship. But that's going to be very, very exciting to see if this team can make a mark still again in the top 4, and Ferrari, can they do anything to catch these guys? Next up is McLaren and Williams. Well, we already know our lineup, and to be honest, I think I know the lineup in McLaren because these guys are locked in to Papaya in real life, and they're on such big contracts that it is, as we saw, case in point, so difficult for someone to break their contract. So I imagine it is, yes, still going to be Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris, but they are no longer the reigning Constructors champions. They did manage to come back ahead of us in the Constructors for P5, but that fall-off is crazy. 2 Constructors wins in a row from 2024, and then here in the game 2025 in season 1 of the series, and then to P5 is a pretty big fall off. So let's see how they do this season, and obviously we're aiming for further up here with Arvid Lindblad and Carlos Sainz. Next up would be Aston Martin and RB. So we already know unless it changed last minute, it seems like Russell might be RB for some random reason. The guy who lost out to Verstappen in the World Championship by 1 point is going to be driving for the junior team underneath Verstappen in that Red Bull family setup. Very, very odd if that actually is the case. And it is. It is the case. And what a weird lineup for Aston Martin. I think Bortoleto switched teams, you know, because I remember when we were going for Bortoleto, didn't it say he was going to go to Alpine? So I think Aston have somehow convinced him to sign for them instead. And honestly, you know, with Alonso now not in F1, I guess, unless he's going to be in the bottom 2 teams, Alonso's not here anymore. It might make a little bit of sense, you know. Alonso is essentially, you know, managing Bortoleto in some capacity, I think, or full capacity. So it might make sense for Alonso to put in a good word to Aston to sign Bortoleto. He's grown to 86, so he's become a very promising driver in this season, in this lineup, alongside Jack Doohan. Bit of a rogue one there. Obviously, Alpine replaced him, you know, for last season with Franco Colapinto. Something that it looks like they're going to do IRL from the next bloody Grand Prix in 2025, but he's back on the grid alongside Bortoleto and Aston, and this is very odd. I mean, it's a pretty strong lineup of Perez and Russell, but just such an odd lineup for RB, the second junior Red Bull team. I mean, like in real life, maybe they're trying to operate more like just a secondary Red Bull team rather than the junior team by signing someone like Russell, or they've just got mountains of cash to burn. Not on the car development, clearly, with Russell going there. That's the oddest move of this lot. From Mercedes to RB. So odd. I mean, I'm not going to... Look, each their own. Right, next up, Alpine and Haas. The last 2 teams on this grid. I thought Bortoleto might have been an Alpine, so who knows who Alpine have got and who knows who Haas have got, because they've lost Ollie Behrman, so it might be Ocon and someone new. And it's Magnussen returning for a 3rd time in Formula 1, is it? It's his 3rd return into F1, okay? He's back at Haas alongside Ocon, and then Alpine actually retain their lineup of Colapinto and Gasly after all of that, of maybe them signing Bortoleto. They retain their lineup of Gasly and Colapinto. Fair enough. That's still a pretty damn solid lineup for Alpine. They just need to improve the car. And the same for Haas, really, because, well, I mean, Haas were up there in the R&D shop, but it just never came into fruition whilst Behrman was there. Now they've still got Ocon at least, and they've got now Magnussen. At this point, I mean, I don't even know how old Magnussen would be in the game right now, but that's a very odd choice. But I suppose maybe there were limited options of who they might be willing to sign. It probably would have, you know, if it wasn't Magnussen, probably would have had to have been an F2 rookie of some kind, or, you know, someone around the level of Doohan to come in there. So you may as well, I guess, go for someone familiar like Magnussen. But that is your 2027 Team Roster update in this career series. Some juicy and some very left field changes, I must say. But the juiciest of the lot is the Constructors' Champions now being 2 former teammates with some good chemistry, good rapport, and certainly might be a very tough team to beat for a 2nd time in the Constructors fight. All right, I've done some scouting and some drivers that I want to potentially sign for what's it called? Affiliate drivers. That's the word I'm looking for. You better be accepting 500,000, buddy. Yeah, not even like, let's go for 400k if I can. Yeah, he'll go for that, surely. Surely he'll go for that. And then Stanek's going to want more money, but I'm going to try and go as low as I can. Will more seasons help? No, clearly not. Maybe a nice signing bonus. One-off fee. Come on. Right, refurbishments coming through. The tour center, we've got more coming in. Okay, cool. Now we've got just a clean run on the calendar, I think, till our designs get done. And our affiliates may be signed with us in a couple of days' time. Oh, no, I lie. There's one more refurbishment, and there's an important one. Oh, counter offer. 1.1 million. Not doing that, mate. We're not doing that. Back to the drawing board. All right, thankfully, Rio's come in with a sensible, like, willing to accept what you offered. Confirm hire. Welcome to the team. Randeep Singh grows to 90. That's pretty solid for us. Hopefully, that's going to... Well, hopefully, continued progress on the pit stops, maybe. And we've got some contract exceptions as well for Louis Sharp, and Stoffel Van Dorn. So as one of the comments suggested, just loading up on drivers and then setting them to help us develop the car. And now designs are getting done. This is getting interesting. Hopefully, these will be some upgrades that will get us over the line to start the season in a strong way. Let's just go ahead and make... Actually, no, I'll make 2 of them because we know the new ATR will come in just after the first race. So we want that little, you know, opportunity to not waste money on parts because we might be replacing them straight away. Right, all parts now installed. Side pods, rear wing, front wing, chassis. And with that, with 6 days to go to the first race of the season, to end off this preseason episode, it is time to look at the R&D chart. Oh wow, so overall VCarb are second on this, so maybe that is why Russell was happy going to them, I suppose. Maybe he knew what was going to be in the pipeline. That's a bit nuts. Mercedes still right up there, so they will be on paper the team to beat with a pretty strong lineup as well. Ferrari, I mean, that they can be as high up as they want. I'm still not going to be convinced that they're going to do anything unless they find some consistency. But what's surprising is, well, Red Bull's still way down there, and McLaren have taken a tumble down again. They did so well to claw back some performance at the end of last season, but they've taken another hit. Haas not looking as hot as they were on paper at the start of season 2, which is kind of horrendous for them because they still didn't perform even with that potential performance. So this could be a really bad start for Haas then if you kind of take that into account. Audi surprisingly not making too much progress there in terms of, you can see from where they started over the winter, they actually probably could have been higher, but maybe they've ran out of money signing Lawson or whatever, or they've made facility upgrades and they've just not spent that much on car development. We're in a really good position. I'm happy with that. 4th is a lot better to be in. We're only, you know, a tiny percentile point off Ferrari and VCarb. So if anything, we could be as high as the second best team on the grid behind Mercedes in potential terms. Obviously, we know this chart really didn't mean a lot in season 2. In fact, it was actually quite useless to tell us what the cars were going to be like in reality because, you know, certain aspects are maybe better and stronger at certain circuits. So we'll see. But I'm getting the vibe that this is a lot better for us of a start than season 2. Like season 2, I think we started what, like 6th or 7th. By the time we got to the first few races, we were down in second last place, 9th on this chart. So unless we fall off crazy, which I don't expect to, because I think this time we have a bit more, I think we have better facilities to keep this momentum a little bit into the first few races. I think we should be in a better stead, but I know that there is potential for the AI to once again be very difficult versus, you know, they're basically making so many upgrades to us last season. But this is a much better start and very promising for the new era of Williams that we're ushering in, with Carlos Sainz leading the team alongside now the new incoming rookie of Arvid Lindblad, 81 rated. Very curious to see how he'll perform. Very curious to see how the Merc boys of Antonelli and Behrman now will perform, and what is Russell and Perez going to cook up in the RB? They're the lead RB team now. They should be renamed to Red Bull, and the Red Bull Racing team at the bottom there should be RB themselves. That's pretty crazy. I mean, to be honest, I'm still expecting Verstappen to be easily top 5. Look at this chart and come back to me in the next episode. He will still be in the top 5, I bet you, because he is that high rated, he's that good, and in terms of the game with the R&D chart versus driver rating performance, I think he'll still be a threat. He'll be still right up there. And I actually, you know, I'm pegging the McLaren boys to also be a threat, and Audi as well, because they were just too good last season to count them out. But it's a much more optimistic outlook going into Season 3 compared to Season 2. We've had some exciting driver transfers in there as well. We've got a slightly mixed up calendar. There is a lot of buzz for me going into this next season on our F1 Manager 25 DLC career journey. If you have enjoyed this one, though, the pre-season for the upcoming season, be sure to hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.